Well, and the thing is that all this, the challenges that that founders are facing, I mean, it's everywhere. When we first exchanged emails, I mean, Growth University just made so much sense to me because as I'm a member of Jason's syndicate, and it's like the deal flow is amazing. And then once word gets out that I start writing some checks, then everybody starts knocking on my door because they think I'm going to write them a check. And then I asked, Jason knows what he's looking for, just as you know what he's looking for. It's like, how many users do you have? What's your month over month growth? How much revenue? What's your growth revenue? How much runway do you have? Yeah. And it's like, nobody has the answers to all these questions. It's like, how are you going to expect to raise if you don't know your numbers and you don't have any growth? And so, you're solving a challenge for so many people. I can't imagine that it's a unique thing in Norfolk and Virginia Beach where people don't know their numbers.
Yeah. I mean, people don't know their numbers, and it's not because they're not trying. There's just no standardization around it. Right. Even I got asked a question yesterday because we just kicked off a live cohort. I've got about 65 founders in the latest iteration of the Mastering Growth program. So we do a 1 hour every week live Zoom session, and there's time for Q&A at the end. And one of the questions that I hear pretty much every time, I've run this now 5 times, is when you're measuring customer acquisition costs, do you also include the contractor's payment who's running the ads for you? It's like, well, there's a bunch of different ways to answer that question, but just that question alone comes up literally every time. So I think there's so little in terms of standardization, and I'm not sure we'll ever get to full standardization, but one of the things that we're trying to do is come up with a common set of language and nomenclature that people can use so that when you describe a challenge or a situation or a metric, it's kind of universally known. And
is that kind of like the product market fit aspect of it, or like product startup style where you have your own, words that other people will start to adopt, and then hopefully, that's
and we adopted a bunch of, product market fit's a good example. We have our own particular view, or I have a particular view on when a company's at product market fit, and we can get into that if we want. But like even that itself, there's like 5 different ways that startups will define it. So, and then growth people and marketers and founders, like, they kind of want to argue and bicker about things, and somebody wants to be right and somebody else is wrong. And I'm just like, we just totally try to be objective and transparent about what we're doing. But we do firmly believe that if we can provide some frameworks, like a standard spreadsheet to build a growth model, a standard spreadsheet to track your metrics, like those things are just the starting points. And then you're going to do all these other things in marketing channels that may or may not work, but we eventually kind of pick off all of those different themes. But you have to have that foundation to start with, I think.
So is a spreadsheet, is that the foundation that you would recommend where people start?
I think that where I would start, so I look at this in stages. So I always say, like, it's hard to grow something that you don't know how to measure and that you don't have a goal for. So if you just started a startup and you're trying to raise money, an investor's they're going to want you in a very compelling way to tell them or show them how you're going to grow your business, right? And so, well, how do you do that? You might have a pitch deck, you might have some slides, you might have a product that you show them, but you have to show them numbers. And so those numbers ground the company in a set of goals that they can then look at and slice into, a multi-year plan and then a monthly plan. And the reason why I think that is important is because let's say that you have a founder that comes to you and say, hey, I'm going to grow my startup. We're going to grow it 20% month over month. Well, how are you actually going to do that? How many customers do you need coming in net new every single month to hit that growth rate? What's your churn if that's if you're a subscription model? How many transactions do you need to sell to hit that growth rate if you're a transactional model? And how much money is it going to cost you, or how much time is it going to cost you to just look at a single month and do all the things that you said you're going to do that gets you to that 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year projection? And when I've been working with founders, one of the things that I've realized is that a lot of founders, they just kind of get into building really quickly. And I've been guilty of that myself, where you just start building and you're not really thinking of the metrics because the metrics aren't really important yet. You're just like, I got to keep building. I'm going to put this thing out in the wild. But then you keep building and you're not actually getting customer feedback on it, and you're not actually monetizing it yet. And it's kind of just something that is there and looming, and you know you're going to try to monetize it, but maybe you're looking at your bank account and you're like, hey, what's going on here? Like I got to get this thing to market, but you haven't grounded it in anything. So there's no real goal. There's no purpose yet for you or your team to work from. And that's the foundation. So yeah, I think it starts with a spreadsheet or, some kind of software that you can use. We run all of our models from a spreadsheet right now. We'll probably productize that down the road. And then from there, you're just basically using it as a model, right? You come back to the spreadsheet every week. We look at ours every week, and then every month we readjust our model based on what's happening.
A couple of things that I think are interesting. So I'm not a runner. You both are runners. But a couple of years ago, I ran my first half marathon. And when I was done with it, I got to the point where I was like, this is really interesting. I ran it. I was really, really slow. And I had this aha moment, though, where it's like, okay, I have no idea how I got to this moment. And so I realized that if I was to document every single workout, a lot of the documentation that can go into that, I can then look at that and say, okay, this isn't a 13.1 mile race. This is a 4-month adventure. And here's all this information from there. And so I love the parallels between business and fitness because I think they're so similar. And so like I recently did an Ironman 70.3 a couple weeks ago. I had done one, I DIY'd one in September. And so I was like, a couple weeks before, I was like, okay, what am I going to eat here? Well, all I did was go back to literally this notebook. And I said, okay, this is what I ate last time. This is what worked. I'm not going to change a thing. And so when you document, as annoying as it might be in the process of building something, no matter what it is, you have literally something to go back and say, oh, okay, on Thursday at 10 a.m. at this thing, I was at this. This is who I talked to. This is how we talked about it. So then you have something to look back on and be like, that's interesting. Any general thoughts on that?
So while you were talking, it kind of dawned on me that I have this super organized growth process. And like, I teach this stuff now, but I have not thought about the fact that, yes, I've got a background in running. I had very detailed running logs when I was in high school and in college. I ran in high school and in college. Yeah. And I would basically obsess over, so I would set goals, like I want to run a, X minute mile or 2 mile or whatever it was. And I would look at and agonize over the details of what I did the prior year and then what I did the next year. And I tried to learn from that. And I actually haven't thought of that.
Interesting.
In probably 15 years. Like haven't even thought of it in 15 years, but it's the same blueprint that I'm actually doing with these spreadsheets and stuff. But it's just like
the process is the same though, right? I mean, fitness is there, you did it, you can write it down. Yeah. And then in business, it's the exact same thing.
I've been directly involved within our entrepreneurial community for years. And the most common question I get is, Tim, I want to get involved, but I don't know what events I should attend. Well, Startwheel eliminates that pain point because we consolidate all the events you should attend into a single calendar. Now you'll be in the know and see where to spend your time. Gone is the need to search multiple websites and calendars. Just head to startwheel.org and see for yourself. That's startwheel.org.